Yeah, it seems Uxbridge was just the beginning. Driving older vehicles will become expensive across London from the end of August, and the reason is the expansion of an environmental zone. The step is unpopular with parts of the population and marks a U turn in the national climate policy. The seat of the British government, 10 Downing Street in London, has been a popular gathering place for protesters for decades. At the beginning of the 20th century, it was stormed by suffragettes fighting for women's rights. In the 1960s, demonstrators gathered in front of the wrought iron gate to protest against the Vietnam War. And the list of protest actions there is long. And last weekend, the British expressed their dissatisfaction with the expansion of the environmental zone. They blew whistles and held up placards, and they said, "Stop the air pollution lie" or "Kick Khan out," meaning London Mayor Sadiq Khan. The protests were directed against the ULEZ, and the abbreviation stands for ultra-low emission zones. These are comparable to our German environmental zones, but with fees instead of driving bans for older vehicles. From August 29th, drivers of the most polluting cars will have to pay £12.50 a day to drive in Greater London. Initiated by ex-Prime Minister Boris Johnson in 2015 while he was mayor, his Labour successor Khan implemented the idea in 2019. And now the zone is to be extended from the city centre to the Greater London area, to the frustration of some citizens who see their existence threatened because they cannot afford a new car, for example. According to a survey by the opinion research institute YouGov, a narrow majority of Britons nationwide are against such environmental zones. Anger at the plans was also evident in the local by-elections at the end of July. While the Tories lost the constituencies of Selby and Ainsty and Somerton and Frome, they defended the constituency of Uxbridge in West London, and thus Johnson's former seat of all places, against the Labour Party, albeit narrowly. ULEZ was the reason why we lost the Uxbridge by-election, said Labour leader Keir Starmer on this narrow defeat. And for Matt Harris, urban geographer at the University of Cambridge, the outcome of the election confirms the growing importance of environmental policy in the minds of voters. Political observers have suggested that a clear anti-stance by the Tory party on low-traffic neighbourhoods and on the ULEZ environmental zone at the national level would bring general election advantages. These will take place by January 2025 at the latest, by the way, and Labour is currently 20 percentage points ahead of the Tories in the polls. But since the by-election, it seems that Conservative MPs have eagerly embraced that hope. Housing Secretary Michael Gove has called the fight against climate change a religious crusade, and MP Jacob Rees-Mogg, hardline Conservative, has said it is time to crack down on unpopular and expensive green policies. Prime Minister Rishi Sunak also pledged to look into the introduction of LTNs and said he was on their side in the perceived war on motorists, at least according to the Telegraph. Sunak also announced last week that the British government would grant more than 100 new licenses for oil and gas exploration in the North Sea, despite strong criticism from environmentalists. In response, Greenpeace UK activists wrapped a Sunak residence in northern England in oil black fabric. You might have seen my video on that. Philip Evans, Greenpeace UK's climate officer, said, "We urgently need a Prime Minister who works for the climate and not as an arsonist. Yeah, but we also need environmentalists that don't break the law." In a bid to maximize energy production in the North Sea, Sunak's Conservatives are on a confrontational course with Labour. The largest British opposition party has spoken out against the granting of new production licenses, primarily for environmental reasons. And last week, London's Mayor Khan announced an increase in financial support for citizens to calm things down over ULEZ. Every Londoner with a polluting car should now receive a subsidy of up to £2,000 to be able to buy a car that complies with the limit values. A lawsuit against the expansion of the environmental zone was dismissed by a court at the end of July. Khan welcomed the High Court's decision. The forthcoming expansion will allow 5 million more Londoners to breathe fresh air, he said. And according to him, around 4,000 people die every year in the British capital as a result of air pollution. And if you want to know more about British politics or Brexit, the next video is here in the end screen. I hope you took a look at the banner during the video. I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.